Welcome to the High Risk Payments Playbook, the podcast for partners and merchants operating in complex industries. If you're navigating chargebacks, underwriting challenges, compliance hurdles, reserve or volume limit challenges, and approval roadblocks, you're in the right place. Each week, we break down the realities of high-risk credit card processing, what works, what doesn't, and how to build sustainable payment strategies focused on revenue growth for industries where others struggle. This is where strategy meets execution. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Lisa Fricksell. Welcome to the High Risk Payments Playbook. Today, we're joined by Daniel Marlin, who has been in client experience for I'm not going to say how many years, but we'll just say a long time, mostly focused in merchant services. And I'm super excited to chat. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited to dive into these topics and help all the partners and all the merchants to get the best they can out of customer support.
Agreed. Me too. So tell me this. What does good customer service look like? Meaning, if a merchant were to call in with a variety of questions, what should they expect?
I think the number one thing is empathy. It's when your support person, your success manager, the people you're working directly with have the ability to sit in your shoes and see your problem from your perspective. That's the number one thing. Because at that point, everything becomes relatable. They can relate to the experience, the frustrations you're going through. The second thing I think that's extraordinarily important is that they have like the gumption, the will to continue on, to pursue, to get to a resolution for your issue. Those two things tied together create such a successful experience within support.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great answer. I didn't honestly, empathy wouldn't have even come to mind. I mean, you're totally right. It just wouldn't have come to mind as like a critical element of really solid support. But yeah, I get that. You're right.
It does. It really does. It makes a big difference when you can put yourself in your client's shoes and you can say, oh, I can see that they're staying up late at night. And if I could just get to the root cause for them really quickly, you immediately build this rapport aspect with them to where they trust you, they lean on you.
Mhm.
And it's almost even if it's a third party, they become a part of your team at that point. You really can rely on them.
Got it. It's I imagine that really what it does more than anything, in my mind anyway, is that when a merchant calls in and they're tweaked out about something going on with their money, right? Because
Yeah.
quite honestly, you know this just as much as I
Yeah.
do. Most merchants wouldn't be able to stay open without their processor, right? And
You're
without their
100%.
being reliable and what have you. So I would
Yeah.
imagine that empathy really plays a role being able to de escalate a merchant who's upset. Yes?
100%. Yeah. In so many different times, different circumstances and cases where I've had merchants that are, that typically more SMB size, they'll come in and they'll tell me, hey, Daniel, we're really trying to hit payroll and we're really struggling right now. Can you sit in our shoes? Can you help us to think through some, ways for us to, like in what you're talking about with money, reserves is a great example of how you can be a great advocate to your merchant or to your partner. If you can see the amount of money they have in reserves and understand what their runway is, the amount of money they have to make it to the end of the month or the end of the week. Yeah, money plays a huge part in this and being able to sit with that and help them to game plan how to, get out of that circumstance. It's, you build a lot of rapport that way, a lot of rapport.
It sounds like you sort of go above and beyond, and by that I mean, offer frankly some business advice. Is that true?
Yeah, that's 100% true, yeah. When you're in the industry for a considerable amount of time, it becomes second nature. You've just you've worked with so many people, and I enjoy helping small businesses or any business size whatsoever to have a better understanding, of where they're at, even in just relationships or in relationship to other clients I've experienced like, issues with, and being able to coach them and do white glove service and hold their hand through the entire process. It's very, very, very fulfilling. Yeah. So I do typically go a little above and beyond what's maybe a normal support role.
Uh, you know, we're peas in a pod there.
Yeah, we
Um,
really are.
what questions do you normally get from merchants? Like, are there some standard? You hear
Yeah.
things, two or three different things often, or is it generally, you know, widely different every time somebody calls?
There are, quite a few of the same type of questions that come in pretty consistently. It depends on a lot where the merchant or the partner is at in their company, the life cycle. If they're just getting started, typically the questions revolve around, if I've got a reserve, how do I get access to the reserve? And the reserve, just so anybody that doesn't know, it's essentially a forced savings account that a bank will put onto you to ensure that you can meet your liabilities. And when a small business has a short runway and they're looking at how do we make this work, they're coming to me saying, Daniel, what can we do? How do we get the money out of the reserve? And so there's a lot of coaching there on best practices. So typically a lot of questions on best practices. How can we grow? What are the ways to really make our processing account look picture perfect? So you spend a lot of time, especially with best practices and coaching on don't do this, don't split transactions, little things like that. You
Mhm.
wouldn't think that would come up, but they are very consistent. A lot of best
What
practice
other pieces
questions.
of advice do you have about how to keep your merchant account spotless,
I would
healthy?
say like to keep it really healthy, it's still one that most businesses really struggle with this, and I get why. But the number one thing you can do is keep money in your operating account. Whatever bank account you have tied to your processing, keep a little money in the kitty because you need to make sure your fees are paid. You need to make sure you have enough money to attend to any tentative chargebacks, any refunds. Show to the bank that you are a partner that wants to participate. And when you truly show up to the bank and you show the risk team and the underwriting team that you really want to be there and you're willing to play ball, they will work with you. Even if you have a moment, if you have a lapse, if you have issues, but they see that you're willing to work, you've built a relationship to where you can grow. That's number one. Number two, redundancy. Try to have multiple merchant accounts because a sponsor bank may completely change to a completely different risk. And so you may be just caught without a
Yeah.
processing account. So even if it costs you a little bit of extra money, it's really worth having redundancy because at the end of the day, you don't want to be caught as a business owner without the ability to take payments. Because at
Mm,
that point, what are you even doing? So
mhm.
redundancy is super important as well.
Awesome. From your experience, what are the biggest challenges supporting merchants? Do first of all, do merchants have a reasonable expectation? Do you find yourself having to reset their expectation first?
Yeah.
Like, what are the biggest challenges?
I think in the world of success and support, expectation setting is always going to be one of the biggest parts. Clients will come in and they may think that they can get X, Y, and Z. And it's consistently just reshifting expectations. And it may not be to the fault of any, software company or anything like that. It may be just shifting priorities within the bank or the sponsor bank, the acquiring bank, what have you. All of those things should just shift. It's payments. Payments is
Mhm,
ever shifting. So
mhm,
you will consistently run into that setting expectations, resetting expectations. You know this, for example, like VAMP, CEDP. There's constantly new rules and things that are being rolled out to merchants.
mhm.
And so it's a flux of just keeping everybody in check,
Yeah.
ensuring they understand best practices. But yeah, that's one of the more challenging aspects. And then it's also um, ensuring that they understand that in order to grow, that you have to keep money in the operating account. You have to show that you are fiscally responsible. You can't just say, "Well, we made $1 million last year." But then you show a bank statement when you're asking to get, more processing power that you only have like 5,000 in and
Mhm.
you're not going to get anywhere. So it's a lot of like re-educating, ensuring people understand best practices and they just actually show up and do the needed. It can be a lot.
Yeah, it definitely can be a lot. For sure. Are there times when a merchant and a partner should expect that their merchant services provider are reaching out proactively about things? And what things would you proactively reach out about?
Yeah, for sure. If you're in the support role or success role and you're working with a team that does not proactively reach out to you, there is definitely an issue here. Some of the major reasons are going to be like reserve release. Number one, that's going to be one of the biggest ones because it gets more money back into the operating account, more runway for you, just even just for marketing or what have you, whatever reason. Number two is if you're starting to get an increase in maybe disputes like chargebacks, and you're starting to draw the attention from the bank, and the bank's starting to say, okay, what's going on here? That should be very proactive. You should say that your team should be much more on top of that for you, as well as like when you're hitting your limits. Just like when you have a merchant account, you have top limits of what you can process each month, as well as like a high ticket limit. And so if your team is really staying in touch, finger on the pulse, then they're going to know exactly when you're close to those limits. They're going to pull you into the conversation and they're going to help you to continue to grow. Same thing with just like best practices as new rules and things are rolled out, your team should be providing you, hey, I noticed that this is coming out. Here's a way for you to save some money. They should also be in touch with your website, your marketing. They should know everything about you. A really good support person, success person will know everything about you. And they should be able to speak as they're a part of your team. They should know you that well. They
Mhm.
should know where you're wanting to grow. And even if it's not an SMB and it's not your own company, your support person should support you if it's within a corporate environment and say, what are your goals? How can I make you look good? And then you align your goals to your client and you help your client to grow and then you grow with them. It's like
Mhm.
that's what you should look for in a real good support and success person. And if you're not getting that, it's rare that you're going to get it.
Yeah.
If you are, yeah, it's rare that you're getting that. But when you do get it, you never let them go. Never let them go.
Amen to that. Amen to
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. It is rare to get this is why we're talking about this because it is so rare to get genuinely solid client
It is.
experience customer support in this
It
industry
is.
for whatever reason.
It
And so
is.
the ISOs and the littler guys that have their finger on the merchant's pulse and have those relationships will win every single time, I think.
Absolutely. Bless you. Absolutely. You're 100% right. The success that I've seen with my book of business, whether it's success or support, where they have thrived the most is when a bank is working with them. They understand their issues. They're truly like in touch. Everybody is talking. Everything just coalesces into this beautiful like relationship. And
Yeah.
it's just a rare treat. It's sad, but it's a rare treat.
Well, I personally believe I want you to tell me if you agree or
Yeah,
disagree. You know, we both know, you and I both know that this industry is relationship heavy, right?
it is.
My what I'm hearing from you and what I've always believed is that it's relationship from the very first minute until the very last minute. Like it's just as important for you to know the merchant as it is for them to know you, maybe more sometimes, but you it sounds like an ideal support environment means that you have a very close relationship with the merchant. You
Mhm.
know one another pretty intimately. You have a small team that can focus on that merchant. Yes, are those the kinds of things that you look for in client experience?
That's exactly what you look for. Even outside of payments and other lives where I've worked in success, where we've grown the most is when you really know your client and you're willing to pick up the phone and they know you, you know their business, you know the ins and outs, you know their frustrations. You know that maybe, it's a big org within the payments industry.
Mhm.
And you know the org has maybe different, 5 different lines of business that's available to you, but you just don't have access to it yet.
Right.
So it's good for you to know and, success, or support. This is the path where I could take. I get to know the client gets to know me. We both grow together. It's just when it all coalesces and it works really beautifully, it works beautifully. It's really the truth. The smaller the team, the more agile, the better support you're going to get.
Mhm.
And I think it's valuable for merchants and partners to really sit not only when you're doing through the sales process to interview the support team and to better understand exactly what you're getting out of just general CX or client experience. Because if you can, great, they sweet talk to you into the sale. Now let me talk to the actual people that are going to be doing the work.
Mhm.
I think that's really valuable. So I would encourage like all of your listeners as they're going through the process. Great. Love the sale. Pull in a member of support or success and let me ask them questions about the day to day and how you're going to help me succeed. I think that's extremely valuable. So, yes, to your point, smaller agile teams, it's the way to go. It's such
Well,
the way
you're
to go.
leading right into my next question. So maybe you've already answered it. Maybe there's something more. If a merchant is considering moving processors or for the first time
Mhm.
finding one, what questions is it smart for them to ask to understand what level of support to expect from that
That's a
particular choice?
great, great, great question. You know, this kind of harkens back to almost grade school, when you're putting your kids into school and you say to yourself, okay, there's one kid going in. How many other kids are going to be in the class? How much attention is my kid going to get? Is there 200 other kids in the class?
Hmm.
And then I know, you know. So I would say that's one of the best questions you can ask. And if there's any hesitation on the other side, you best bet that the support success team, they're handling a very large book of business and that there's a chance that you may not get attended to in a very quick manner. I think also going into that is just you ask what the process really looks like. You say, post sale, should I anticipate a weekly, a bi weekly, monthly, quarterly based review? How are we ensuring that the account is growing? What are we doing from both sides? You
Hmm.
know, as the client, I'm saying, hey, I'm showing up, I'm paying this fee. But from the company side, there's something that should be said of, here's what you're getting. So when you're going into the conversation, you ask questions like, gosh, this could get me in so much trouble in the industry. But you ask questions of like, what is your retention? You know, what is your retention? What is your attrition for clients? You know,
Hmm.
you ask those questions. You ask life cycle questions. You
Hmm.
ask what, you know, what is your CSAT? What is your CSAT is going to be like your customer success score or your NPS. What is your net promoter score? You know,
Hmm.
how many of your clients are truly promoting you? You then ask on top of that, if you're really diving in and you really want to know what company you're getting in with, you ask them, how many referral partners do you have within your organization? Because then that tells you exactly how many people believe within your system that they're actually promoting to you. And then you ask them, how much success are the partners actually getting? And then you ask them questions. There's just so many beautiful things to ask, but really dive into the success of the other people that are there. What industries do you typically work with? How frequently are banks kicking off your clients? You know, little things like that. I could come up with a ton of questions I could just hammer out to all your people and be like, ask this, ask every single one of these, and you'll know exactly if this is the place for you. And there are some questions that don't matter as much. They don't hold as much weight, because things do change, but it's good to know. The number one thing is what is the workload for your success team, your support team? What's the workload? And
Got
then
it.
once you find that out, you'll know everything else.
Got it.
You'll know exactly everything else.
Yeah, those are excellent questions to ask. Thank you very much for that. That's really helpful to a merchant who wants to make a decision to help them
Because
figure out.
it's hard. It's hard when you're first getting started because you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
it's good to have somebody like you and like what you're doing to help to facilitate how to ask the right questions. So I'm thankful for you because, like, in my role, you're making my job easier because people come in much more educated. So I appreciate what you're doing and trying to help to educate people.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so thank you for all of that info. That's super helpful. Any last tidbits or thoughts, things that are important that we didn't touch on? Something
Yeah,
you just to share?
absolutely. The number one outside of I say number one all the time because I just always put things as like high priority. Read your contract when you're signing up. Read your contract.
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
not do not skip that. Do not just say, "Oh, I'll sign it." You read
Hmm.
the fee schedule, not
Hmm.
only for the merchant account that you're signing for, but if you're signing up for a payment gateway, read the contract.
Hmm.
Always know what you're getting into because a lot of times there's an early termination fee or
Hmm.
there are minimum requirements. Just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into and never feel that you are held there against your will because there are a litmus. There's a variety of teams that are available like you, for example, there's so many people out there that are really willing and want to help you. So if you're not getting what you deserve out of a team, there are other places to go where you will get what you deserve.
Yep. Totally true.
Other than that, absolutely so glad to be here. And I appreciate you just taking the time out for me today.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing, Daniel. We are excited to put this out in the world and help merchants understand support, how to get good support before they make a choice for a
Yeah.
processor, help partners understand what they should expect, what their merchants should expect, and that if a company understands the value of support, they will share with you when you're talking to them, hey, our support looks like this, right?
Hmm.
If if you're talking to in my opinion, if you're talking to a
Yeah.
company and they don't mention support, there's likely a reason for that. So, you know, you want a processor that wants to talk about support, right?
You do.
Yeah, excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent. Well, thank you so much, my friend. It's been enlightening, and you and I will keep in touch.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day. Make a lot of money.
Hey. Thanks for listening to the High Risk Payments Playbook. If this episode brought you value, share it with a partner or a merchant who operates in a high risk industry. For more insights and resources, please visit us at zenti.com. That's ZENTI.com. Until next time, operate with efficiency, process smarter, and stay ahead of risk.